Let's call the meeting to order. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, the first action item, Goose Creek Dam low-level outlet works.
Yeah, it's not going to the red. Yeah, I guess I'll just go back. Morning, Mr. Chairman and the members of the committee. My name is Amolya Paudel, Capital Programs Group. I'm here this morning to seek your approval on the design task order for the Goose Creek Dam low-level outlet works. So in 2014, we purchased this set of infrastructure from City of Fairfax that included mainly the Beaver Dam Reservoir, Goose Creek Water Treatment Facility, raw water pump station, Goose Creek raw water pump station, and the Goose Creek Reservoir, and a dam for the Goose Creek Reservoir. The Goose Creek Dam is approximately 340. The drainage area for the Goose Creek Reservoir is about 347 square miles. As designed, the theoretical capacity of the reservoir is just above 300 million gallons, but with the heavy sedimentation that this reservoir sees, the estimated available raw water at the moment is about 104 million gallons. We've ceased operating the plant itself. It was decommissioned once the trap rock was commissioned. However, in 2020, we installed a pipe connecting the raw water pump station to the trap, and this is our secondary supply to the trap. So this task order here is relatively small work that's needed at the dam. There's a couple of notes about the dam. This dam is about 39 feet tall and 700 feet end to end, 700 feet long. The spillway is about 500 feet, and it's a little difficult to see without the red pointer there. But if you look at the segment to the left of the screen, technically it's the right training wall for the dam. So there are two existing outlets on the left corner of the dam, and those are currently inoperable. So this project here would basically be to retrofit that non-operable outlets. So want to go through some drivers for this project. The dam, it is regulated by Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation. It is classified as a high hazard potential dam. A dam of this classification requires frequent inspection. In the recent inspection that was conducted in 2025, the inspectors noted that the two, a low-level dam and a low-level outlet and upper-level outlet, both were not operating as intended. Virginia code requires that it be operational. For concrete dam, DCR has relatively been lax about this requirement in the past. However, after this most recent inspection, the certification, DCR issued a conditional certificate to Loudon Water.
What do they mean by high hazard? What are they worried about?
That's just, I think anything above 25 feet is automatically classified. When a dam has so many, I think it is 50 acre feet of storage or 25 feet high dam, automatically gets classified as high hazard potential.
So there's nothing wrong
No, it's not because of something with this dam. It's just like the metrics that is used by DCR. So the dam currently, our the permit is perfectly fine. We're able to use it at any moment needed, but we are under conditional certificate, and the condition associated with that, and the condition DCR required is for Loudon Water to begin submitting an alternative plan to retrofit this outlet. And technically, once our board approves this task order to proceed with design, that would be counted as submission of alternative plan with the commitment that it will move to construction, and that would bring us to full compliance with the permit. Mr. Bonpins, you have a question? Oh, sorry. Okay. So scope of work. This is a typical design bid construction project. The scope of work includes designing the outlet, permitting, which is this one will require pretty heavy permitting just because of where the project location is, and we will also be getting bid phase services from the consultant on this with this task order. Gannett Fleming, and I'll be talking a little bit more about the consultant in the later slide, but we are proposing Gannett Fleming for this task order. They carried out a study which was wrapped up last year. They looked at multiple different options to address this issue. They primarily looked at 4 issues, and the staff, after looking at the hydraulic capacity, the cost effectiveness of these options, staff selected what we refer to as alternative 3. So that alternative 3 would basically use an existing upper level outlet and then run the pipe and then discharge it to the steeling basin. So that's the scope of the project here.
You explain that diagram. I'm trying to position that in my mind where it is on the dam.
Sure, I was trying to explain that, but the pointer not working didn't help. So
I can go be the pointer.
So in this area here, here. So in this area here, in existing condition, there is a low-level outlet, fairly low outlet that basically runs below this training, on the other side of the training wall. It's fairly deep. And then there is a second slightly upper level outlet that with a sluice gate, which then basically discharges out to the creek, right? So both those outlets currently do not work. So the goal would be the low level outlet to bring ourselves back into compliance. That one is not needed. The upper level retrofit of the upper level outlet would work fine. So what we would do with this project is slightly increase the size of the outlet and then install a pipe on the other side of the dam and then run it out to the
creek.
Yeah.
And they're required because the upper level one is to lower the level below the spillway if needed.
At the time of inspection. So the DCR's position is when you are inspecting to have a dry spillway is better. It's needed. So that outlet, if it lowers the water level by about 2 feet below the spillway, the crest, that would provide enough dryness for the inspectors to inspect the spillway.
But then to understand what the the high one. I understand the low one, but yeah.
Yeah, for a typical operation, we don't need it. It's strictly just during the inspection. It needs to be lowered to dry up the.
And it's 50 some years old.
Yeah. So consultant selection on this one, we decided to sole source the consultant. Gannett Fleming, they now go with this new name, GFT Infrastructure, but in the past known as Gannett Fleming. So Gannett Fleming has been involved with Goose Creek Dam even before we purchased this asset from City of Fairfax. And after we acquired this infrastructure, we've continuously involved Gannett Fleming primarily because of the background they bring and also their expertise in the dam related work here. So GFT has been providing inspection services and other miscellaneous tasks for us related to the dam. Gannett Fleming performed the condition assessment of this outlet. They looked into multiple alternatives and provided the recommendation that we've selected for this design. And the justifications, the need where we think proceeding with GFT makes sense is it provides continuity. Their background study on this particular need, and also it would avoid a lot of like duplicate work if we are to select a new consultant at this point. So. And additionally, like I said, Gannett Fleming GFT, known in the area for their expertise in dam safety and regulation. They're like go-to consultants for Fairfax Water for their dam-related work. So based on this, we're proposing to go with Gannett Fleming for this design professional services.
Is the sediment accumulation any worse in this area than in any others?
Yes, it actually is pretty bad. We have a separate project, a pretty large size project to dredge the reservoir altogether. For this particular project, all we need to dredge is maybe within 10, 12 feet of the dam, just so they can get the work. So this project would not dredge outside, like more than 10 feet outside of the dam. It's a separate project in the works to basically dredge the whole reservoir to recover its original
It's in the
design.
CIP.
Yes, it's in the CIP. So tasks associated with this, a typical design phase task order, project management, it's meeting invoices, internal and external project updates. Design phase services would include bathymetric survey, field survey, some geotechnical design, hydraulic design, pretty heavy on the permitting side of things on this one. Bid phase services, again, typical services responding to the questions, preparing addendums, pre-bid meetings, bid evaluations. And in terms of permitting, as you can see in the list here, this project, we do expect a bunch of joint permit applications, several referrals. We are hopeful that some of these agencies would consider this as a maintenance project and waive some of the work needed. But again, that's at this point, it's an unknown. That's the push we will make. We'll see how that goes. And that applies even to local permit. Loudoun County permits getting stringent by the day. We're hopeful that this project would qualify as a maintenance project and can minimize the permit needs here.
Yeah, it is a maintenance project. I don't see the Corps of Engineers on there.
On the very first one, JPA, Army Corps of
Oh, there it is. There's
Yeah,
USA's. Got it. Right.
We've negotiated this fee, a high-level summary of the fee here for the purpose of presentation. But similar to every other task order that we do, this is derived from a pretty granular detail of all the activities involved and the labor classes involved in this project. As you can see, the total fee here is about $253,700. Our typical experience has been on a project of this size. Cost-wise, our consultant, you can see the estimate there, 1.2 million. It's not a big project. Experience normally ranges from 15 to 18% for design. This one, we've budgeted for a need for a more intensive permitting. Again, we're hopeful that not all of that work would be needed, but just because of the nature and some recent experience on the permitting, we have allocated budget if needed items in terms of permitting. So that kind of bumped up the permitting cost. And also on the bid phase services, of the nature of the project, we expect a little bit more involvement from the consultant than our typical projects. And those two items alone bumped the cost up by about 3%. So that's why what you see here, base fee of 20.73, slightly above what we expect on a project of this magnitude. Schedule, so we do plan to immediately begin the design. Relatively small design. We don't expect design to take more than 7-8 months. However, you can, as you see it here, permitting, we are estimating about up to 10 months, depending on what feedback we get from the jurisdictional agencies. Once we secure all the permits, the goal is to immediately advertise, go through the bidding process, get a contractor. Construction, again, the work itself, after it begins, probably doesn't take more than 5-6 months, but then looking at some time of year restriction that probably applies. We're just giving ourselves more window there and saying it could be up to 12 months from the notice to proceed. Work itself, like I said, it shouldn't take more than 5 to 6 months to complete the work.
Does this timeline put it in the same time frame as the dredging?
No, so dredging, we will be beginning our CIP planning process here shortly. So at this point, I do not know when we will decide to begin
It'll
that.
be later
work.
than 29.
Yeah, it may.
Okay.
In terms of CIP snapshot, we've been tracking this project under Water 127. The drivers, as we went through this, it's driven by regulatory needs and operation and maintenance. We allocated $1.38 million for design and construction, and kind of within that, generally within that budget here. And this is my last slide before the motion, so I can pause for any questions.
This is kind of, sorry, this is specialty work. I would consider this highly specialized. Any concerns with identifying contractors that would doing this in 28, 29?
Now we're talking not design, construction.
Not construction.
Yeah, that definitely will be part of when we get a GFD on board working on this, identifying who the target contractors are and if there is any outreach needed before. We typically do outreach with the contractors on projects that are not like this level of one-off types. This one, we definitely will do some market outreach and see who the potential contractors would be on.
We recall that on the Beaver Dam Reservoir, that the contractor had trouble finding both workers, and they were when we found them, they were out of Texas. So that was were you here for that project?
Just the very tail end of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was hard. It was, and of course it went a little past delivery time. So completion time.
Thank you. Good presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I have the motion in front of you.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
There are no other questions, right? I move the recommendations of the board to award a design task order for the Goose Creek Dam Low Level Outlet Works Project to GFT Infrastructure Incorporated for $253,700 with an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $266,400. Additional costs will require board approval, and I recommend this go to the consent agenda for the board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Measure passes.
Thank
Thank you. The next item, I guess you're here for that too. Award of professional services contract for the Broad Run Operations Complex Improvements and New Laboratory.
So I have two presentations, two motions related to this project here. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background on that before I start the presentation. So this project, the core element of one of the core component of the project is constructing a new lab. And because of the one of type project that it is, and also the costs involved, we made a decision to go with a request for proposal process for this task order. So what the presentation here I have for you is, the first one is we've made a selection of the consultant. First would be board's approval to authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with the consultant. And then the second one is, because of some time constraints we have, we started scoping the project. So the second presentation would be for the task order to begin the planning phase of the project. So we just put them as two separate presentations and motion. I am here to seek your approval on authorization to award professional services contract for Broad Run Water Reclamation Facility Operations Complex Improvements and New Laboratory. So this project here is, it's here in the campus. Picture to the left, to the right, I'm sure by now you're pretty familiar with this. This is kind of the ultimate build out, 30 MGD expansion of the plant. Two locations I would like to draw your attention is this green box here. This is an existing lab. To the left, the middle one is the operations building, and then to the right is the maintenance building. Collectively, we call this LMO complex, or sometimes also operations complex. And this area here I'll be talking a little bit more about that. That's where the new standalone lab building is proposed. So with the expansion of the Broad Run plant to 30 MGD, last year we wrapped up a facility and staffing study, which estimated the future workspace needs, maintenance area needs, lab capability that's needed, and the lab space. So from that study came, the study determined that the existing space we have in the LMO complex, it's just not big enough to provide that workspace and maintenance space that's needed for the ultimate build-out scenario of the plant. And that was the driver for this project. The goal with this project is like I said, there's a little bit of lag here. So this here is an existing lab. So the goal would be to repurpose this lab into office spaces, and the whole lab would shift to a new standalone building to the northwest part of the parcel. We also plan to reconfigure, retrofit some of the areas in the operations building here. And on the maintenance building, there will be some repurposing of the space, retrofitting, and additionally, we plan to add about 11,000 square feet of new maintenance space.
How come you didn't just expand the existing lab? Why are you going to a whole new building?
We looked at that operationally, and the challenges of expanding a lab with it in operation were almost insurmountable. And I think another fun fact that most people don't realize is of all the samples that Loudon Water runs, 80% of them are for Broad Run, because there's so many processes in a wastewater treatment plant that have to be monitored and controlled versus what we're sampling from water distribution. So we're basically doubling the output that our lab is going to have to face. So the amount of changes that we needed in place, we would essentially, for several years, just not be able to run anything because we would have to do so much work. So it made more sense to build a new lab. We also really like the new location better than where it's at. Labs have a lot of people in and out of them all day long, which we manage, but has security concerns also being tied into the operational complex. So having the lab off on the side where it has, we're putting a new entrance to Broad Run up there. So it'll also have a separate entrance and can be gated separately. It's really going to help us control traffic and security. So there were enough benefits that we felt it made sense to go ahead and redo that lab and be able to maintain our operations through the whole process. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, what is the size of the current lab?
Current lab is about, can't remember off the top of my head now, unfortunately.
Are we doubling the size? Are we increasing the size?
We are expanding the size. I just pulling numbers off the top of my head, I think we're going from like 7,000 square feet to maybe 15,000 square feet. But it's been too long since I looked at those numbers.
And the parking associated, you said it requires a lot. So is it permanent parking? Is it just drop off of sampling parking? Can we put it in a drive-through and drop off the samples?
Yes, exactly. So there will be parking for staff because those lab staff will be out there permanently. But yes, we will have a pickup and delivery dedicated location for that, which will definitely help our flow right now. Our lab staff are having to come out and bring those samples out to the people so that we can control safety. So it'll be a lot better arrangement.
And at this new location, how does it fit with the master plan? What did we have for this space at this location? And
yes, so you'll see it is everything that we've got shown on this figure takes us through the end of getting to 40 MGD. So we put the lab in space that is being held for future Broad Run that we don't have planned. So okay. It was appropriate use of space because the question we asked ourselves is why put it up there? Why not put it on the south end of campus to the left of the current LMNO? But that land was more valuable to us in terms of what we might need for processes because it's where. So we picked the site that was closest to the access road and the least identified right now.
Oh, just since Kendra spoke up, are we going to re-outfit this with the new equipment and new technology? I mean, we're being asked to measure in parts per trillion in some cases. Some
Absolutely. So inside of the lab design, not only will we be able to properly lay out a facility for PFAS analysis, we're also looking at, to date, we've sent out a lot of our metals analysis and a lot of the work that we do with our data center discharges. We would need a specially designed place to bring that in-house. So we are looking at that. What specialty, because you have to have it, everything has to be plastic and sectioned off to run those metals. So we're looking at all of that. What can we do better? What does it help us bring in-house if we do this? As well as we will think about expansion in the future, right? So just to be prepared, since we're laying out a new site, we've already started talking about where would it make sense to build on and expand in this location to prevent a little bit of this problem moving forward. If we take a step back, the original plan with Broad Run to expand it was to just duplicate all of this to the left. So there would have been a new LM&O, but when we were able to do that 16.5 expansion in the existing footprint, we scrapped a lot of those plans, saved a lot of money, and not just duplicating that facility, but the lab is something that wasn't ever meant to be expanded in space. So we will think that through now, how we can grow in the future.
Thanks for the perspective.
So one question, the 20,000 square foot includes that future expansion area, or?
No, we're just talking about the square footage we need for now, but we'll save space layout.
Would it make sense to consider doing a cold dark shell for the space you expect to expand into and just not?
I think that's stuff we can work out once we have an architect on board in terms of what makes sense to construct now. I think materials of construction are things that we're challenging ourselves on in a lot of this Broad Run expansion, and how can we save money in that. So as Amelia mentioned, the work we've done so far has just been with our normal water, wastewater consultants. We're really excited to work with a qualified lab architect that does this day in and day out and get those more tailored ideas for this new building.
Just to add to what Kendra said, there are things like what Kendra said, and then I know we are going for a Virginia Environmental Lab Accreditation Program, but do we pursue National Environmental Lab Accreditation Program? Do we want to evaluate a LEED certification for the building? So there are a bunch of these things that we will be looking at with this with the task order that I'm presenting next. So like I said in the beginning, we made a decision to proceed with this project, requesting for a proposal from the consultants to select a firm on a competitive basis. When I say competitive, Virginia procurement law does not allow cost to be a factor when you're acquiring professional services. So it was strictly competition based on qualifications. We issued a request for proposal January 14th. That proposal, in addition to the scope of work anticipated under this project, also outlined the evaluation and scoring criteria. We received proposals February 26th, got proposal from 3 firms, shortlisted 2, and then interviewed the 2. And after interview, so there was a 6-person selection committee representing different relevant stakeholders within the organization. After the interviews, we found Samaha Associates to be, staff decided to select Samaha Associates. They had a pretty good interview proposal. Their experience there on a similar project was pretty impressive. So, yeah, with that, we're recommending awarding this project contract to Samaha Associates. And also, I want to point out, after the interviews, we did ask for non-binding cost proposal from the consultant just to make sure and then the non-binding cost proposal and also construction cost estimate we received from them was generally pretty in line with what we had anticipated in our CIP budget. So that kind of get that second assurance for us to proceed with this consultant, this project.
I have one other question. You mentioned an architect, is that a specialty architect firm that specializes just in labs or how to?
So now, of the three that proposed, two of them had in-house lab planner. I mean, there is a lot of lab planning involved in this. Samaha is using, they have 6 subs. LSY is their dedicated lab planner. We've done a ton of like federal lab projects, university labs. So Samaha is primarily an architect, but they have in their team LSY, which is a pretty nationally renowned lab planners.
So it's just a general architect firm with a branch that has that expertise.
For them, it's a sub. It's a company out of Maryland. LSY is, and they're like national level lab planners. So they're in the team under Samaha Associates. So the project schedule here, after the board approves, we plan to immediately move to planning, and we will be coming back to you a couple of times at minimum when we have the basis of design ready. We will be back to receive your approval for the design and permitting phase, and again for construction award down the road. We expect the construction itself to be about 2 years, design permitting. So the goal at this point, that's end of 2030 is anticipated, but the goal actually is to see if we can cut the timeline here because we are in a little bit of time crunch with this project, the ongoing expansion of the plant.
For the future, I'd like to ask, just for our information, we keep hearing the lab. Maybe in a future presentation, somebody could come back and say, okay, here's what's in the lab. Here's what we study. Here's how the flow of work goes through. That type of thing, just for interest, interest, because all we hear about is the lab. I'd like to know what's in it.
Mr. Sultan, we're going to come back to ask for the design phase money. And I think at that time we can
Maybe
present
at
some
that
more
time, yeah.
information. Sure.
Yeah, we do. Sometimes around mid, and definitely when we come back for the design phase, there will be renderings and all the details on what exactly we're trying to build in this lab.
All right.
Yeah, we'll definitely have more on the topic. Well, I see a hand raised.
Yeah, that's me, Amelia. What do we have budgeted in our CIP for the total cost of this project, including construction?
Almost $39 million, Mr. Allen? I can't remember.
Yes. And why is this project not part of phase 3? Why is it separate?
Kendra, I would let you.
It needs to the opportunity to hire an architect directly. And we've found over time with standard people style buildings, we feel that we can get better pricing and designs out of firms doing specifically that. So that way our water wastewater consultant is focused and moving forward the plant as fast as possible, and we could get an architect to move this building. And that division of labor we felt suited the needs. So it is part of the overall program, but we felt it fit better as its own contract.
Okay. It just seems like a lot of money for a 20,000 square foot building.
But
I know it's
in addition to the lab, we are renovating and expanding all of LM&O. So that LM&O complex is also going to grow and incorporate warehouse storage for maintenance, housing a lot more maintenance staff. So I don't know the costs off the top of my head if it's like a 50-50 split, but it's definitely not all lab.
Okay, thank you.
The last slide here before the motion is the CIP. Like I said, this is being tracked under BRW 52. The primary drivers here are growth, plant expansion, and compliance. Like I just said, the 10-year budget allocated for the project is $38.98 million. And I can take a question because the next slide is the motion. Yeah, with that, Mr. Chairman, I have the motion in front of you.
Can I get a motion?
Sure. The motion. The recommendation to authorize the general managers to execute professional services agreement for the Broad Run Water Reclamation Facility Operations Complex Improvement and new laboratory with Samaha Associates, PC. Future task orders related to this agreement will be presented to the board in accordance with Loudoun Water Board policy. I recommend this to be on consent.
I second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion pass. Next on the planning phase.
I'm here to seek your approval of planning phase work plan for the Broad Run Water Reclamation Facility Operations Complex and Operations Complex improvements and new laboratory project. Skip past the first two slides. They're essentially the same. So this slide here, kind of high-level overview of what's included in this work plan, this task order. On the first planning phase, we are intending to carry out some compilation and review of existing information, field measurements, 3D photos, probably potentially laser scanning of the existing complex that would help plan out some of these things, gathering requirements, field survey, geotechnical investigation for the new lab location, developing phasing. Like Kendra said, phasing is a key here because we need to be able to move the staff before so the lab. So phasing is pretty critical to make sure we get it right. So that's something we will look into detail and in this with this task order here. Typical project management activities, cost estimate, and in the end, what we expect from this task order is a pretty solid basis of design report that would set the goals as we move to design phase on what exactly where the design to scope the design would be the outcome of this planning phase work here. So we just went through this. We've selected Samaha. They were selected through the RFP process. However, in terms of project management, this will go pretty similar to how like our basic ordering agreement task order goes. Contract with Samaha, every task order will be based on time and material, will be a time and material contract. This one, I did not list the subs name here, but they have like 6 sub-consultants. When we got their fee proposal, we had like a pretty detailed breakdown from each of the subs. So there was a lot of numbers to review. And this here is a high-level summary of what we found was reasonable, acceptable. And the breakdown is here in front of you. The total fee for the planning phase is $357,650. I can take a pause.
That's time and materials.
This is time and material. And like I said, the design phase has not been fully developed at this time, but we did get a non-binding cost proposal from Samaha. It was, again, in line with what we thought would be the cost for design of a facility like this.
Is it a not to exceed or?
Not time and material not to exceed. Yes. So this is, again, same schedule. And like I said, we are here today requesting your approval on the planning task order, planning work plan. The next would be design and permitting. And we expect to be back to you early next year with the design phase task order. Same CIP seat. And then this is the last seat before the motion. No further questions. Mr. Chairman, I have the motion in front of you.
Any other questions? No? I'll make the motion. I move the recommendation to the board to award a planning phase work plan for the Broad Run Water Reclamation Facility Operations Complex Improvements and new laboratory project to Samaha Associates for $357,650 with an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $375,500. Additional costs will require board approval, and I recommend that this be put on the consent agenda. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Measure
you.
passes. The next item, what of a construction contract for Broad Run Farms.
Morning all. I am here to present or request award of a construction contract for the Broad Run Farms Waterline Extension Project. The project is located just north of Route 7 and south of the Potomac River between the areas of Broad Run Farms and Countryside. You get a little bit more of a detailed look at the area here, and the purpose of this project is to extend potable water service to parcels within the Broad Run Farms area, which are currently not served by our central system, and they are not to be served by extensions constructed by the EPA as part of the ongoing, really, Hidden Lane landfill remediation project. The Hidden Lane landfill remediation project it's a story that extends back to
It's got a lifetime.
the 70s. It was a landfill that was operated back then. Eventually in the 80s, it was discovered that there were contaminants in nearby drinking water wells that were associated with the operation of this facility. The facility was, within that decade, placed out of operation by order of the Commonwealth. And then in the ensuing decades, remediation work began to clean it up by the EPA in connection with the Superfund. So EPA took charge of remediating the landfill, excavating it out, replacing it with clean fill and topsoil, and then took care of the water service within that area. And basically the purpose of Loudoun Water's project is to extend those water line installations to the full Broad Run Farms community. That scope of work would involve the installation of approximately 22,000 feet of 6 to 12-inch DI pipe with the associated hydrants, valves, fittings, and service and meter boxes, service lines and meter boxes, as well as ENS, pavement and restoration, and all the associated traffic control work that typically goes hand in hand with these projects.
I have a question.
Sure.
What's the impetus for this? Why are we extending it? It's got nothing to do with the landfill, does it?
Well, it does in part.
It does have.
In part because that area, there's ongoing monitoring. I am not sure the TCE issue. It's a trichloroethylene. It's like
So these
degreasing
people are
solvent.
getting.
It's still in the area. The plume has moved slightly north, but the point is to get these people clean, reliable service from our central service instead of having them continue to rely on drinking water wells.
So
I think the other important part of that question is this is really a county initiative, and they made the decision to fund this. So this is being funded by county government and we're doing the project. So it really was a decision by Loudoun County.
The EPA they did their modeling and they modeled where they believe the extent of the plume will ultimately be. And they agreed to essentially provide central service system to the homes within that plume. And then there was a portion of the community that was not subject to that.
That's what this portion is.
Correct.
Right.
So the county decided they'd like to extend central service water to the rest of that community. And so we're doing this project on behalf of the county.
They're paying?
They are paying for
Yes,
this.
they're paying. Yes.
We,
they're back.
we'll,
We buried the lead, sorry.
we buried the lead a little bit. It's included here at the
Yeah.
bottom of this table. I was
Yes, the project is funded. This has been going on for a while.
part of the good news. Oh,
Just any booster pumps, any pressure is not an issue?
nothing like that
Or
associated with this
reduction
project.
valves or?
Down by the river, it's all downhill.
The other
Water flows.
bit of good news besides the funding by the county is we have been seeing, 1 to 3 bidders on smaller linear projects and, doing a little bit of outreach and there was some concern about interest for this project. And we did see 7 bidders submit bids for this project. So that's a bit of good news. And it goes hand in hand with the feedback we got from bidders that these other projects maybe were a little bit on the smaller size, weren't garnering as much interest because of it. The other bit of good news is that it's right in line with our engineer's estimate and actually quite a ways below. We did seek out an alternative estimate on account of, recent foreign policy issues, world events that sort of drove prices up in the interim after that original estimate was developed. But ultimately, it didn't seem to manifest in higher bid prices for this project. So we were happy with that result. And as was mentioned earlier, project costs will be reimbursed by Loudoun County for this project. I'll take a pause here, see if anyone's got any questions.
Well, a very interesting spread between Hazel and the low bidder. But there's four that are really grouped close together.
That's right.
The top 4. So that's a good sign.
And of course, with our low bidder, we did conduct our typical evaluation to ensure the responsive and responsible bidder is doing the work. And we were happy with those results as well.
What's our history with A&M?
Our own history is limited, but we did seek out references from nearby utilities and across the board. They can do the work well. And so other utilities were happy with it. So
I do think there's some additional context that's important for you to be aware of. With the EPA project, that's funding every part of it, including the connection charges. Sorry, Mr. Vega.
Gotcha.
The connection charges and the full, even the private lines to fully provide the service. In the county funded project, what they've chosen to do is put the infrastructure in, up through the meter. And the county is not covering the cost of a connection fee or the private service line. And as you know, and we've been through this many times as an authority, we are not in a position to, provide relief. And we have to, we're charging that availability fee. And then it's on each customer, if they choose to do this, to, do that service line, any work that's necessary there. So as you can imagine, this is going for that group in this project, that's a decision. The county decided this is not mandatory. And we can't make it mandatory. So it's going to be a choice. It's available to them. But that's going to be, that's for a property owner who's been there for a long time. That's going to be a cost that they're going to have to bear in this.
I would just remind the board that this has been a while, but in September of 2021, this board did approve financing of availability charges for these customers, 2 different options, 1 year, 12 months, no interest, up to 36 months, paying the 20-year municipal bond rate interest at that time for these specific customers.
It's a deal.
Yeah.
And remind me again, how many customers we got here? Potential customers, I should say.
for our portion of the work, it's 260 service lines. So that would go ahead and the number of customers. So we've got just over a year here of construction upon award of the contract year, and costs are in line with our 10-year CIP budget for 26 through 35. And our next slide is the recommended motion. So I'll take a beat here and
Go ahead.
one last note, 10% contingency on account of, surprises we might encounter underground and some of the drivers that we've discussed in previous presentations to.
I move the recommendation to the board to approve award of the construction contract for the Broad Run Farms water line extension project to A&M Concrete Corporation for $9,599,136 with an approximate 10% contingency to be controlled by the general manager, for a total authorized budget of $10,560,000. Additional costs will require board approval. To the consent agenda, do I have a second?
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Measure passes.
Thank you. And then one more here for CA services for this project. We could get that one teed up. We are here to seek approval for construction administration services for the Broad Run Farms Waterline Extension Project. This work is going to be performed by J2 engineers who performed the design for the project as per usual. Here's the drivers that we typically like to highlight for these task orders. The total fee comes out to $152,000. So we were able to keep costs relatively low, 1.6% of the cost of construction for this project. And that's mainly on account of it being linear work and not as demanding as your typical vertical or facility project. And with that, I think that's pretty much leading us to the recommended motion here. We're well in line within our CIP budget.
I move the board approve award of construction administration task order for the Broad Run Farms waterline extension project to J2 for an estimated cost of $152,500 with an approximate 10% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget ceiling not to exceed $168,000. Additional costs will require board approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's very good.
The next and last item is capital spending summary report through May.
Below the line.
Budget. Wallets with an eye.
Yeah, we're usually below the line. Any questions?
Any questions?
No, we read the report and the detail.
Thank you.
Maybe on your report, you can use larger font next time. Just kidding.
Okay, we will work on that.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm really